Thanks for choosing to spend a little of your time with us here this morning. I know that GDC is a busy time. There's an awful lot to do. I don't know about you guys, but it's so good to be in what's hopefully post-COVID era, right? So our sales team, all video conference for the last year or two. For the first time, Sunday as we kicked this off, we were able to get together in one room, our guys from Canada, our guys from South America, all over the US. And it was just amazing to kind of remember what the different energy is like, right? When you're face to face and you're having that human interaction, and everybody was pumped up, they had their materials ready to go. And then last night, and I see some of your faces here in the audience, we were able to have our big kind of industry kickoff party, and we had 350, almost 400 people, same energy, you know, lots of smiling faces, lots of people interacting, and I just think it's so good to have GDC back. And I feel that it really is. I don't know, how many of you guys were here last year? The few, the brave, the I know it's COVID, but I don't care, I want to meet people crew? Awesome. It looks like, you know, last year we had 15K people. This year marketing's telling us it's going to get to 27K, basically twice the people, twice the opportunities. A lot more sponsoring companies, a lot more booths, a lot more sessions for people to learn from. And as a company, Xsolla, we've actually brought 70 people in for this event from all around the world. We have a target of 600 Xsolla meetings. We're going to fly that. But anyway, I just feel so energized to be back with folks. We're glad you're here. And we appreciate you investing your time, and we're going to try to make it worthwhile with what we talk about. So before I get to the panel, I'm going to kind of frame this a little bit, and first maybe give you a little bit on my background. I'm the director of the Americas for Xsolla, so those three, you know, North, South, Central America. I report to Chris, if you saw his presentation, our president that was just here. This is actually, to the date, my 1-year anniversary with Xsolla. My first day was the first day of GDC last year. Oh, thank you. That I made it, or I'm still alive at my age. I don't know. Each is something to celebrate, I guess. But we've had a tremendous year. We've added a lot of quality partners. We've added a lot of new team members, and it's been a fantastic learning experience. My background is primarily in publishing. So I started in '95 with Activision. I was head of sales for Bobby for years, and then was EVP of worldwide publishing during the Tony Hawk years. I worked for Crave Entertainment as CEO until we sold it to Handelman. Had the opportunity to run Square Enix North America during the Final Fantasy XIII launch years. Restarted Warner Brothers Interactive, and then worked for 505 Games for a lot of years. So a lot of experience in that part. Happy to be on the fintech side. Now, a lot has changed since I started with the industry. And trying to be a little tech forward, I will put an asterisk. I use ChatGPT to pull some of these numbers, so I think they're directionally correct. But back when I started, $3 billion in revenue. Over the 25-year period, we moved that to $160 billion. And depending on whether we get a break on industry growth this year, we should hit $200 billion or thereabouts, which is just an amazing track record. On the user side, we started out, we used to call it a hobbyist enthusiast category at 100 million. We hit 2.7 billion 25 years later, and should be at 3.5 million or better as we come out of this year. So just fantastic track record. We have more players buying more games in more ways in more places than ever before. And in addition to the growth, the retail environment has changed somewhat, as I'm sure all you know. When I first started, it was like about specialty stores, and we had software, et cetera, and we had EB Games that became GameStop, and then we added the big box retailers with Best Buy and the mass merchandisers and club stores, and then that evolved to streaming services and now the platform stores. And man, are those driving growth. What a great aggregation of millions of consumers that you can put your brand into, gain customers, and move forward. But with all that change, one of the things that hasn't changed too much in our category is that there is still, between you guys as content creators or content publishers, some reseller that sits between your product and your customer, and you don't have that straight direct relationship. And before we talk about video games, I thought it'd be instructive to kind of step back a little bit and look at the broader entertainment categories to see what's happening there, and maybe we could be informed by those trends. So I looked at 3 of the other major parts of the entertainment pie. starting with streaming movies, it used to be that it was all about cable aggregators, right? And now we've moved to streaming services that initially, like Netflix, aggregated a lot of different people's content, but now we're really at individual brands, whether that's Apple, Paramount Plus, that are making and creating their product, controlling the distribution directly to their consumers. And I would say in that area, we have a full direct-to-consumer model. They control it end-to-end, and they have that relationship, and they get the benefit of that data and experiences. In music, it's getting there, right? We have the aggregators, Spotify and Apple. They're giving more control to the creators. They can figure out which music to upload, when to do their drops independently. They can have individual branded pieces, not quite all the way to direct-to-consumer, but certainly the motion is in that direction. Last but not least is sports. And sports has really changed. They still get the eyeballs from the big networks and what have you, but more and more they're developing their own brands and they're taking more of their content directly to their consumers. And just last week, I was reading an article in Wall Street Journal. I'm not sure if you guys saw it, but when you get underneath these major global sports brands, like to the regional teams, the B leagues and down, they were basically saying that that's so competitive that unless those guys figure out a way to engage their customers directly, it's going to be a real tough road for them. So even parts of the sports industry are going direct. So I would say that that's more than an aberration, that that's really a trend that is hitting across entertainment, and something that I think is going to affect the video game business as well. And here at Xsolla, that's really our prime mission and why we're here. It's to white label, to support you as content creators and publishers to develop that direct relationship with your consumer. And we do it in a variety of ways, and it's somewhat multi-tiered. And if you just give me a minute, I'd love to kind of explain it to you, because people are like, what makes you different than some of the other competitors and money transactors that are in the marketplace? Well, our first level is driven by our PayStation product, which allows you to reach global users, 700 different payment methodologies, 200 different countries, 130 currencies, and 80 languages, right? If you can convince somebody to buy your product, we have a way for them to conveniently pay you for that service. But we don't stop there, and a lot of our other competitors do. On top of that, we put a service layer. And the way we do that is by being merchants of record, which you license us rights to the software for that fraction of an instant it takes to do a transaction, right? And then we can represent ourselves to the government as being able to take care of the tax services on your behalf, help you with all the geographical compliance so you don't need to know all those laws. We have a fraud protection engine that's industry standard. And then we also do the first layer of customer service, anything that has to do with that transaction. If it turns out to be a product issue, we can turn it over to your customer service. And we also fight chargebacks and disputed charges and have an 85% success rate of solving those in our favor and keeping that revenue within your company. So that second layer of services. Third layer from us is the actual platform and the tools that we give you. We can help you put together a web shop, quickly get out into the marketplace. We have login functionality, we have launcher functionality, we have subscription functionality to help you with retention. We added NFT checkout services where now we can actually not just distribute those, but we can get them onto a blockchain. We can let your customers mint them. So a full suite of services that lays on top. So when you're looking at your options, if you get that far, remember that Xsolla is not just a transaction provider, but we have all these other services and tools, and it all comes for the same price. And our motto, it's not our business, it's your business. We support you absolutely. We white label everything and sit behind you. It's your relationship with your consumers. It's your transaction strategy. We just want to be there to facilitate it for you as a good partner to help you grow your business. So I put together some benefits. I'll let you read them. I think the group here will probably be better at enunciating those than I would be. The one thing I want to go to is we certainly help hook you up with your target customers. We can give you innovative ways to help you get to them. But at the end of the day, yes, it's about extra revenue, and yes, it's about profitability. That's what keeps us in business. But the way we get there is by focusing on the users. And if we can give you a mechanism to give them the perfect bundle with the right value, invite them into a VIP situation where they feel valued and they feel a bigger part of your brand and your company, that's going to delight those consumers. They're going to use your products more. They're going to spend more while they're there. They're going to tell their friends of the great experience that they're having. That's going to build your business. And with the number of partners that we have globally, that's going to help grow the industry. And that's what we're really looking at. Consumer to industry, supporting our partners, enlarging that pie so that all the constituencies and all the participants in the industry benefit, right? So with that positioning, and that's what we're talking about, now let's get into a few of the details. I'll do the quick overview of our panel here. I'll start with this gentleman on my left, Tayber Voyer. He is with A Thinking Ape, which is one of our big Canadian customers, and he is CEO. And for the first applause line, he just got promoted to CEO, very well deserved. So let's give Tayber a warm welcome.
Thank you.
We have Ben Tsacoyianis.
Nailed it.
Thank God. I've been sweating that one out for like the last week. Ben is actually with Tilting Point. That is the customer, at least on this stage, that's been with us the longest, has some great insights that he can share. All the way from South America, representing that point of view, we have Lucas Adami, who's co-founder of Viva Games. And then last but not least, a guy that I've known for, since the early Activision days, a very good friend, as well as colleague, Tim Morten, that is CEO of Frost Giant. So please give a round of applause for the guys that are contributing their time. All right, so we're just going to have a little conversation here between the five of us. Looks like we have, about 25, 30 minutes to do that. We'll touch on a lot of different topics, and then at the end of that, you see the couple microphones are in the middle. We'll have 10 minutes for questions, and I'm hopeful that with all the different perspectives, both geographic perspective, different platform perspective, different size operation perspective, that each of you in the audience is going to find someone up here that represents your point of view and finds their feedback valuable. So with that said, Tayber, why don't you lead us off, give us a little bit more background on yourself, your company and brand, so there's a little context to interpret his comments from.
Sure, yeah, sounds good. So I'm Tayber, and I'm the CEO of A Thinking Ape. And we've been making games for mobile since 2009. And so we've been doing this for quite a while. Our biggest game is called Party in My Dorm, and it's been online and growing for over a decade. And we have two new titles. You should all download them. One is called Witch Arcana, and the other is called Single City. And our specialty is social strategy games. So we try to introduce new audiences to the deep mechanics of 4X games. So, Single City is a game where you run an influencer hype house. And so you send out your influencers to do collabs and do drama in the city. And instead of attacking another kingdom, they're going and doing drama at other hype houses. And so it's a very different kind of 4X game than you'd expect. And a lot of people who join the game don't really get that as a 4X game. And we introduce them to the mechanics. And then, after a little while, they become super hardcore PvP players. So it's really cool to see new audiences play these games. And I'm really happy to be here, happy to partner with Xsolla, and we've done some great work together so far.
Awesome. And, outstanding operation, key influencer within the Canadian market, and we're happy to have you here. Ben, tell us a little bit about your brands, because you're working on some exciting stuff as well as Tilting Point.
Yeah, so I'm Ben, game manager at Tilting Point and Wicked Realm Games. Primarily, I work on Star Trek Timelines. I have for about 5 years now.
Awesome product.
And we released the web shop, I think, 9 months ago now, and a lot of learnings from that and a lot of growth from that as well. So really, really happy to be here. As part of Tilting Point, a big publisher in the mobile industry. We're also releasing 11 games just this year, so we're really excited about that. But we have a big backlog of live games that we've been working on for a long time.
Awesome, and we'll dig into those details. Tim.
All right, I am the CEO of Frost Giant Studios. We're a new studio, mostly comprised of former Blizzard developers, and we are coming off of some real-time strategy games that Blizzard made and trying to make a new game independently that is in that same gameplay style and hopefully appealing to that same audience. We're a little ways out from launch. We're a single product studio right now, a single hardware platform, though we'll probably be on multiple distribution platforms on PC, so Steam, Epic, and perhaps some others. Yeah, very glad to be here and to have some payment solutions like Xsolla to help us launch our product. So.
Awesome. And Lucas, a little bit about your company and you and your co-founder.
So I'm Lucas. I'm the co-founder of Viva Games. Viva Games is a small game studio from Brazil. We have a game launched called Kakil Online. It is a MMORPG that is cross-platform. It runs on PC, Steam, iOS, and Android. And it started as a hobby, and just recently we founded the company. So we are pretty new to the market. And before that, I worked in the tech industry at Google. And this is my first GDC, so I'm
awesome.
Happy to be here with all of you. And we will be presenting the new version of our game the next day, so feel free to stop by and say hi and test it.
Super. So hopefully that gives you a feel for the size of the company, kind of the portfolio. So let's kind of start at the top level. And Ben, I think I'll bring you in first. From a strategy level of how a direct-to-consumer program can enhance kind of the brand and the operation, what are kind of the important components for you guys? What's the hallmark of your strategic goals for direct-consumer efforts?
Yeah, I think it's all about establishing more of a direct contact with players.
Yep.
And then having a really good communication as to why the web shop is a place to go for players. We want to communicate that value to them.
Yep.
Make sure that they're aware of that. And that it's not just beneficial for us as a studio, but also for them as well.
Yeah, let me dig into that for just a second. You said make sure it's a value for them. Like, why don't you explain what you mean by value? How do you translate that to the consumers to let them see that as different than other places that they could go to interact with the product?
Yeah, so partnering with Xsolla and working with a web shop with purchases, Xsolla is a lesser percentage than Google or Apple. So that is, that's the beneficial thing for us, but making sure that we're communicating that to players and saying that, because we're able to, we're getting a little more in our pocket, but we can extend that discount to our players, right? So
yep.
Maybe we have these, same bundles that we have in-game, but we're able to offer them on the web shop, but maybe at a 5% discount. Or a 10% discount, or offer 5% more contents
right.
of that bundle.
More value, a little higher price,
yep.
but easily recognizable value when they first get there.
Yep.
Tayber, how does that sound to you? Is the same at your place? You got a little different take on it.
Yeah, I think for us what we think about is, we have these games that have been around for a decade. And I think if we had known that was going to happen, 10 years ago, we would have really focused even more on building that relationship with the
right.
customer. So the thing about that is there are some people who, over a decade, you're going to have a lot of different devices. You might switch from Android to Apple and back
yep.
and forth. And it's really easy for players to lose their accounts or lose access to things. And so building that relationship with the customer directly so that you can help them manage their own, all their own content, as well as being able to talk to them directly, is super important to us, and building that relationship long-term means that we're really focused on customer retention and finding a good partner to be able to not only connect with your players and manage that relationship, but also connect their account and give them the options to pay however they like, whether it's on Apple or Google or Xsolla, and that gives them all the options, but also allows the flexibility, because things change for people, especially
right.
if they're playing your game for 10 years, then you
Right.
want to make sure that you're supporting them that whole player journey.
Well, you know what? That's a really interesting point that I don't think we really talked about is the journey that the user has and giving them the ability to select how they want to interact with your brands and making sure you're kind of covering the whole field with options
Yeah.
for them. That sounds like an awesome engagement tool.
Another thing that I think maybe some folks don't think about at other parts of the vertical is that oftentimes people will play on multiple devices.
Yep.
Right? So they might play on their phone, but they also might have, playing on a PC, on an emulator, or maybe they have another, like really hardcore 4X players will have like multiple phones that they're all playing at the same time. So we want to manage that relationship with them directly, not as like 4 different customers, right? And so that's really a big unlock for us to be able to do that.
I've got this mental picture of somebody to try on multiple phones at the same time.
One time we banned a guy, we thought it was a bot, and so we banned him, and then he sent us we had a web client for one of our games, and he
Right.
sent us a picture, and it was a bot, but it was a drill that he'd set up with like a slow timer to hit the space bar over and over again to do the action. We're like, okay, we unbanned you, but please stop doing that, because we detected it, right?
I think that's a really good point. We've got some creative devs in the audience, but we have some damn creative consumers that we service as well, and
Absolutely.
never finish surprising us. So we heard from a couple big multiple guys. Like, how do you look at it in South America? Do you see it as this broader customer engagement tool, or there's some local geographic things that might play into your thinking, or what's your kind of strategy when it comes into direct
Yeah.
consumer?
In our game, since it's cross-platform,
Yeah.
we have players coming from Android, iOS, PC, and some of the players will download the game directly from our website. And their own option is to use Xsolla to do the payments. And also, Xsolla provides multiple different payment options that the other app stores don't.
Yes.
And at least in our region, it is really important to offer that to the players because we have a young audience. Most of them don't have credit cards, and a lot of them have bad credit as well. They can't have a credit card. So it's really important for us to give them more options to pay for our products.
So do most of your users come from the local marketplace, and is that primarily where you're looking versus some of the bigger companies are obviously looking at that global footprint and have the ability to market there and other things? Is that the primary focus then for you?
The majority of our players are from Latin America.
Yeah.
The biggest player base is from Brazil. But we also have players in Europe, like Poland and UK.
Yep.
So Xsolla also offers lots of payment options for those players.
Yeah, no, we're happy to see you go global, but I think it's interesting on the different perspectives how important it is for you especially, and we have a lot of early stage developers that they're really making their product for the local market, right? And if you're somewhere like Brazil, where I think if you just have access to credit cards and maybe PayPal, you might get 45% of the market. So being able to add Pix and relationships with the banks to top off out of checking accounts and other things is critical for you seeing the full potential, since that's where the majority of your clientele and customers come from, right?
Yeah. Pix that you mentioned, this Brazilian payment method is really popular now. Nobody wants to use credit card or anything else. So it's really important to offer that option.
Cool. So we kind of talked about the strategy. Now, Tim's in a slightly different point because we're early stage talking with Tim. So, and when we first talked about this, full disclosure to folks, Tim was like, "Oh, you're going to Xsolla. Interesting. I'm not sure exactly what they do. I'm not exactly sure, if that's going to fit with my strategy long term." And it seems like over the conversations you've had, that's come around a little bit. Could you kind of maybe give folks a feel for that journey and like maybe what your initial concerns were and now what you're envisioning the benefits to be down the road?
Yeah, for sure. Because we're PC-centric, obviously Steam and Epic are kind of the two biggest distribution points currently on PC. Steam in particular is somewhat particular about processing payments themselves.
Absolutely.
So, not as obvious that an outside company like Xsolla could help us. I think one of the things that we ran into by nature of wanting to be cross-platform is a desire on our part to provide a uniform experience for those consumers and to have an integrated web shop, I say web shop, integrated shop really in our client. And that experience needs to behave the same irrespective of whether we're on Steam, Epic, or some other PC distribution platform. So that's something where Xsolla can really help us out. I think another thing that came up is we can imagine a world, because we came from Blizzard that did some pretty cool collector's editions. We can imagine a world where we might want to sell some physical product. And that is not necessarily facilitated by these digital distribution platforms. So once again, seems like there's an opportunity to get to work with Ron again, so yay.
Yeah, no, having that full solution is something that we're really working on. We've got a pilot program with Take-Two that we're doing. We're looking at some other options to bring that more broadly to the marketplace. And then the thing that I've heard a lot is this whole cross-platform idea, that's something that you guys are struggling with, that we're having some internal conversation, but maybe that'll be something that we can talk about next year when we get back together with the panel. So so strategy, I get it, it differs, and I'm glad that we have tools that support all these different visions and goals. Let's talk about some actual products and maybe some of the best practices or things that you guys have implemented that work well. And maybe Ben, since you're closest to an actual brand, why don't you talk about your brands a little bit and what you've implemented and how those have worked with the web shop to help move things along.
Yeah, we've been using the web shop for a while now, so there's a lot of learnings to come that have come with it. And some of the big things, probably one of our biggest wins was having a repetitive sort of service that players will come back to the web shop for. So one of the big things we have in Star Trek Timelines is our campaign system, which is like a battle pass-like system. Last 28 days, and then there's another campaign that starts.
Right.
So bringing, we have different tracks of the battle pass that cost different tiers and whatnot, but being able, offering that option for players to buy on the web shop for those passes at a slight discount, creates this sort of player behavior to go back to the web shop at least every once a month, right?
Yep.
And that's huge, right? Getting players back into the web shop, seeing what has changed. Seeing the new bundles, seeing the new offers.
Yep.
And we've done, I've kind of expanded on that as well, with Star Trek being very bundle, limited time offer driven.
Yep.
We've been cycling out our LTOs in the web shop twice a week. So Mondays, Fridays, always having something new in the web shop and making sure the web shop is not static. I think that's a big.
So there's a lot of different frequencies. You could update monthly. You could do it bi-weekly. You guys have chosen to do it twice a week. Like, how did you zero in that was kind of the right cadence for your customers?
Yeah, I mean, we found out as we were kind of going through, right? We did it once a week, and then we're like, all right, this is working. This is working really well. Let's try maybe every 6 days, every 5 days, and let's just do it twice.
So it was just moving the needle, almost like an A/B testing thing, where let's try something different, let's record the results, and just continue to tinker and optimize.
Yeah, and we wanted to work towards something that was more concrete, right? Just so our players know every Monday, every Friday.
Yeah.
The shop is updated.
So there's a training element into this as well, where you establish some norms that your customers can understand, so they're proactively coming back. Tayber, you're nodding your head. Is that something you've employed as well, or like how does that work at?
Yeah. So we have we've layered some gamification on top of it, so you can earn extra points that you can sort of spend on offers as well. And I mean, I think that's always like a very easy win. Because you're making games, so if you can gamify the merchandising experience as well,
right?
It's super effective. People love to collect points.
I'm going to steal that phrase, by the way. I love gamify is I think exactly what we're trying to do, and obviously works with the target audience.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, the most engaged people, they want even. It's kind of like a funny thing that I think sometimes people don't realize, but even high spending players, people that spend hundreds of thousands of dollars in a game, they still want value. Like they still optimize for value, even though they have a lot more disposable income. So if you can make that experience, even for those folks, something that is fun, then they're going to use it.
I think that's a key point. Is it's one thing to set up these shops and but people just don't automatically come, and they have to have a compelling reason to come, right? And one of the things that we found, and I think Tayber underscored with that, is that it's not just about price.
it's really about value. I mean, don't sell our users short. They know exactly what they want. They know generally how much they pay for it. And for us to have, and again, for us, meaning all the folks in this room, to have a differentiated offering from what you can find in the app stores that has more value, but has maybe a higher ring. And so consumers will focus in on that, and they recognize it right away, right? And that becomes that first compelling reason to come visit. And then these great kind of periodic promotional programs and what have you just kind of cement that behavior. Do you do anything like that, Lucas? Like, what kind of techniques do you use for your customers to bring them back?
So we reach out to them via email when they stop playing, asking why they stopped. And so since we are MMORPGs, we have frequent updates with new content, so they keep interested in the game. And whenever we do those updates, we try to get a sense of what the players are feeling is wrong about the game, what needs to be fixed, and we try to provide them those fixes in the next update. Basically, we launch and iterate through it.
That's so interesting. One of the key differences that we've seen in a majority of like PC-based clients versus mobile is PC guys know how to grow online community, right? So they have emails, they have ways to, reach their customers that'll easy. Some of the mobile guys, like, you haven't got outside of the ecosystem yet to think about that.
You're on, yeah.
So I'm throwing that out there for you guys that are thinking about it, that are focused on mobile. That doesn't mean that you just rely on that ecosystem to drive your customer relationship, that reaching outside, getting to know who they are, getting that contact information, you're laying a positive groundwork for where this is going to go in the future. So I just want to kind of underscore that as best practices from some of our more successful clients, that's something that they do regularly. Now, Tim, you're in a little different place, which is like what you expect to gain in the programs that you're hoping to put in. Do you want to talk about some of the ideas we've discussed for the variable bundles and things that
Sure,
I think help pull you a little closer to us?
For sure. Yeah, I think coming from a big publisher where there are literally hundreds of people building infrastructure for us to consume as a product inside that publisher, now we're this scrappy development team who needs a solution for how we are going to transact with our consumers. One of the things from a feature perspective that we used to have access to was the ability to discount bundles when consumers own some of the content that's in that bundle. And that's a fairly sophisticated feature, but it's really a valuable feature, I think, for players, and something that we want to make sure that we don't lose just because we're outside of the big publisher that we came from. So Xsolla has been really great about engaging with us on how could we make this happen on their platform and continue to provide the kind of quality that players are used to getting from games that we've worked on in the past.
Absolutely, and we pride ourselves on this aspect, that one of the ways that we develop our solutions over time is not sit in a conference room and try to think of what the next best thing is, but we have great partners that come and say, this is something I need. This is something that I think our users will benefit by, and we'll partner with them and build it for them, but with the thinking that, man, if Tim thinks that's going to be valuable for his games, I bet you there's a lot of people that would like this variable bundle concept, and so let's go out and build that, and then we can build it into the core offering. So when you're thinking of a timeline, or if you're thinking of engaging with us at any level, and it's like, wow, I'm not launching for another year or so. We started talking 2 years out front of when you were going to launch, and that allows us the roadmap where we can do some really interesting things. If it's like, hey, I'm going to go out next month and I'm looking for an extra payment methodology, and by the way, I'd like variable bundles and all this stuff. It's like, that's too late. So kind of think strategically about what you're looking for, but we're all about trying to innovate, meet customer needs. We love to have ideas come from our development partners, and that makes our offering stronger and more relevant, not only to you, but the users that you service. Now, we talked about using emails to bring people back into the web shops. These guys don't always have that opportunity, or they're laying the groundwork for it. So there's some other techniques that we've talked about using, like retargeting.
Yeah.
And I know both of you are kind of in that, but Ben, you've used it. Do you want to talk a little bit about what retargeting is and how that's helped you out?
Yeah, I mean, retargeting, you're trying to reach back out to players that have been, established at some time, right? Or I've been in the web shop and I've paid there, but maybe they're only paying in game now. I mean, these are players that have been engaged for a very long time, at very high retention, right? So,
Right.
Especially with those types of players, trying to get establish that flow of going to the web shop to make a purchase can be really huge and beneficial. Doing UA for that and
Right.
and retargeting especially has been really good.
That's awesome. We have a couple good partners that we can recommend to folks that work with us, but we're testing that now. It's kind of new. I know that you've been interested in that as well. Anything to add to what Ben talked about, or other techniques that you use to kind of pull people in?
Yeah, well, on the retargeting, thanks for reminding me. I got to get my team on that. They're supposed to be rolling that out right away here.
I made a good offer to you.
I know, yeah.
It's got a shelf life.
Oh,
it
no.
goes away if you don't use it.
All right, I got some Slack messages to send after this, but we have an email login system, and that's something we've had for a long time.
Yeah.
And that's enabled us to do a lot of things and move a lot more quickly with Xsolla. And I think, in the current, how do I say this, user acquisition climate, if you're on mobile and you haven't been collecting emails, you're behind. Because we now need to own that relationship with our customer, and email is back in style, baby.
Yeah.
Email marketing is hot right now.
Some things that are old become new again.
Yeah, absolutely. So I think, for us, we're able to connect with our players through that system, and that's really the underpinning of our entire strategy, is that we want to make sure that players have a long-lasting relationship with us, and we want to have as many touch points as possible.
Awesome. Well, let me see. It looks like we're running down a little bit here, so we talked about some of the details. Why don't we click it up and maybe finish off with where you see this going and what kind of innovations, what kind of ecosystem would be optimal in the future. And Tim, I usually go to you last, so I'll let you lead off on this one from your side.
Yeah, I appreciate it. I mean, I think a theme that has come through for all of us is the importance of building community by having direct relationships with our players. And I think, we briefly saw a shift where platforms controlled those relationships. I think we're going back to a world where products and developers really try to steer those relationships directly. I think having solutions like Xsolla is a component of enabling us to do that. I definitely hope to see more standardization where it's easy for us to kind of plug and play Xsolla with Steam, Epic, or any other platform that we're working on.
Totally.
And that we get to continue to build these great relationships with players.
Awesome. Ben, from your standpoint, your crystal ball, what does it look like?
Yeah, I think it's the web shop offering more things that are very live ops mobile game oriented. So I know we've requested things that you've already gave to us, right?
Yes.
Like having giveaways free giveaways we can put on the web shop.
Yep.
Timed offers, things like that. But also having the web shop as a communal hub, right? Offering media there, like more things than just offers and bundles. So having game news there, updates, anything like that as well, to get more players into that kind of ecosystem.
Yeah, it's one of the things I have to pull you into is we're actually rolling out some new marketing concepts, drops by influencers that give digital value that we can drive, whoever the influencers' followers are into different brands. That's something that we'll be rolling out and augmenting, the live off stuff we're doing, trying to support that. So I definitely hear what you're talking about, and hopefully we'll be there right with you lockstep to give you the things you need. Where do you see it going? Other than getting you on Alipay and making you a big deal in China and other places around the world, where do you, when you look out a little bit, Lucas, where do you see it going?
I see more games being cross-platform as of today.
Yeah.
And because of that, I think the payment systems will integrate more with each other.
No, that'd be awesome. So I can't hear that loud enough with everybody I talk to, how this multi-platform thing is going to be a big piece of the business.
Yeah.
All right, Tayber, your vision. Now that you got the CEO mantle, like use it, buddy. Like tell us what you see going on.
Yeah, my vision. So I think the multi-platform is obviously really important, but I also think that there's a lot of opportunity for even things like user-generated content, or like NFTs exploded with this idea that people are going to make money by playing games, and you don't really need necessarily a blockchain ledger to have a ledger that people can trade on. And so we have games where people do trade, and I would love to be able to enable some people to come in and play our games and build their own assets and then sell them. And I think that is something that we're going to see a lot more of in games. Is more like platforms where people can not just express themselves, but also generate their own online identities and build things. And I mean, even the stuff that you're seeing with Roblox is just incredible. So I see the future as this augmented place where people are interacting across all kinds of platforms, and we want to be optimizing for that as much as possible.
Well, that kind of sounds metaversy.
Metaversy, yeah. Decentralized metaverse, I guess, is my vision for the future. Maybe that's 2022, I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know. It seems to be moving every day.
That's true.
So look, guys, I'd love to sit up here and talk with these guys more. There's a wealth of knowledge that they have that we can share. Hopefully, we can do this again. Maybe we do an annual update. But I do want to take some questions. I see the clock here has given us about 10 minutes to do that. But first, can we get a round of applause for these guys and their contribution and trying to bring everybody up to speed? So happy to answer some questions. I think we pointed out that there's a couple microphones. Come on up to a microphone so we can hear you. One of the things I'd like to do, let's kind of keep it high level. There's a lot of different interests in this industry, and I don't want to really, target anyone in particular. But since you raised your hand first, sir, can you give us your name and what question you have, please?
Hi, I'm Javier of Jaguar Games. So my question is about the huge underserved market of Latinos.
Yes.
So maybe many of you know that games tend to be pricier in Latin America. So I wonder, fortunately, the technology by Xsolla and how it has been used by several companies, are there any ways so that games are more accessible for this huge 6 billion market, which is Latinos? What do you think?
Yeah, so if I'm hearing you, what you're asking is, Latin America has a very unique situation. It's growing. Are there ways that we can support Latin America to overcome those particular regional situations and help grow the whole ecosystem?
And a small precision, Latinos start all the way in the US. We have a lot of Latinos here. So it's not only Mexico and below, it's US, Mexico, all the way to Argentina.
Yeah. Happy. Do you want to take a first cut at that, Lucas? And then I'm happy to add a few thoughts from the Xsolla side.
Yeah, one thing we do in our game to make it more accessible to our audience is to price our products based on real, which is the currency of Brazil. So this makes the game cheaper for people in first world countries and more accessible to for example, Latin America.
From Xsolla's side, and I have to say this directly, is that we have huge longer-term expectations for Latin America, and we kind of see where the development community is now. It reminds us a lot about Eastern Europe, 12 or 15 years ago, where you've kind of had those first few revs. Now we have some publishers putting money in there for work for hire and introducing best practices. And we decided to take the long-term view, and we're in there with a full team. We're working with a lot of indies, more so than we do in any other territory. But we know that the relationships that we're establishing now and the insights that we're giving into that community are going to pay off later when folks, have those first few revs and they're like, wow, now we've got some money, we want to go out and we want to make our own products. And so we're kind of looking at this 3, 4, 5-year horizon. The other thing that we think would be helpful is there are a lot of users down there. So while the development community is coming along, we're thinking of test marketing a lot of our solutions and doing pilots so you can take advantage of all the users that are in Brazil and Argentina and Mexico. So I think it's going to be a real key strategic area for Xsolla, and we're going to play the long game, and we're going to support the developers in the community and hopefully see those kind of results pay off 4 or 5 years from now. So thank you for that question.
Exciting. Thank you to you too.
Yes. Yep. Name and question, please.
Yeah. So we all touched on like user retention, but I was wondering how user acquisition differs from all of your different contexts and like what strategies you guys use for user acquisition.
Yep. If anybody want to take a shot at that? You touched on it a little bit.
Yeah, I guess for strategies of you talking about just new players or just getting players into the web shop?
Like new players, like when you don't have the emails of people, like what strategies are you guys using to bring new players
We can
in?
step out and just handle general UA for the best product.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, we have a bunch of partners that we use for Star Trek, being able to just acquire new users on various stores. But as far as for the web shop of getting getting players that haven't been to the web shop into the web shop, a lot of things that that has worked for us is being vocal about the value of the contents of the web shop. Especially on specifically our own forums, our own social channels, and even unofficial areas like for Star Trek, there's a fan-run Discord that I have a really good relationship with the Star Trek community, which is really great. So I've been able to let players know of really good values and things that they're not able to get in game, but on the web shop.
Awesome. You want to add anything to that, Tayber?
I could talk about user acquisition for 3 hours. Yeah, in general, it's really, really hard to grow a game. If you're just starting out on mobile and you want to find a place to get some users, stay in open beta on Google and get into the early access program. They're really, really good about getting people into that early access program, and there's a lot of people looking at those games, and it's a really good way to get some traction and try to get some players into your game early on.
Awesome. Any other questions from the audience? Anybody want to hit the guys while we've got them here? All right, perfect.
Oh, we got one.
Oh, we have another one. Awesome.
Outstanding. Great talk, guys. My name is Lex. I'm an indie game developer.
Nice to meet you.
Kind of walk us through the scenario and how does an indie game developer get started with Xsolla? What is like the success? What is the early success? What is the late success? And how do you guys define that? How have you guys seen that?
Awesome. Who wants to handle that one? Who's closest or remembers the first kickoff? You're probably closest to that one.
I mean, we're not really indie. We already got all.
No, I know you're not. Sorry. Man, I just downgraded you.
No.
I built you up just to let you down. Maybe Lucas, you want to, as an indie developer, what would you recommend?
So we started small, and we grew organically at first. Then we started with our game just for PC, then launched in the other platforms. We started creating revenue for the game, and with that, we were able, for example, to reach out to Xsolla and have an integration with them.
So my recommendation to you is, if you go to the Xsolla website, or you talk to some of our guys, we have a broad array of different products and services, right? Don't get lost in it. Keep it simple. What you want to do is you want to use our platform builder, you want to build a web shop, you want to have a buy button, and you want to have your product represented. That's where you start. You don't worry about the launcher, you don't worry about that other stuff. You want to make that first game a success. And so I think staying simple and focused, and you can do most of that work yourself if you want to. We obviously have integration managers and our business development people to aid you if you get hung up or if you want to do something a little unique. But we're back to KISS, right? Keep it simple, stupid, and just do what you have to do. We can set up that buy button early so you can actually do some pre-orders with it. So there's a lot of flexibility, but I look at it, it's like the standard cable package. It's like, don't spend the $300 a month and get 500 channels that you're never gonna watch. Just focus on the things that you're gonna use, they're gonna bring the most value, get that up and running, and then we'll be there with you the whole time, man. You have some success, we get that set up, we will build and grow together. And as you get more sophisticated and need more tools, we'll be right there with you to help you bring those on in a way that best benefits your business. So that would be my recommendation.
Yeah, we started that way too. Even though we had tons of offers, we had tons of tech, we had tons of users, the first thing we did is just get a web shop open, put something for sale, and just make sure it works and see if people can use it. And like that's how you start, and then figure out what people want to buy. Like it's all about value. You can't just make value from nothing. So figure out what your players want to buy and just make one offer and start there.
All right, gang. Well, part of my job is to land this plane on time, and we just went red, so I think we're right on it. Happy to continue the conversation, right? We've got a booth on the floor. We've got a lot of folks there. As I said, we've got 70 folks here that are dying to talk with you, find out about your business, figure out how we can support you. We're going to be talking about the web shops. We have our Xsolla funding for the indies here, tell you how to get into that and work through it. PayStation 4 is a big upgrade, more mobile, more flexible to represent your brand, higher conversion rate. Would love to talk to you about that. And then we have some new concepts we'd like to bounce off you. We've got a pay-as-you-go cloud gaming concept that we could talk you through. We have a new program with MasterCard where reward points are going to be converted into currency and allowed to be used to purchase digital items, which I think is somewhat of a game changer for the industry to tap into all that value and bring it into potential purposes. And last but not least, on the back end, we talked about our merchant of record on the front end. We now have a regulated payments option where if you have mass payments that you need to make to, say, UGC content creators, we now have a program to handle that and do those payments for you. We can do it through our different payment methodologies, which is new and pretty exciting for us. So we'll be able to help you out on the front end. We're building up to more UA and retention tools, and on the back end, we're helping you with the back office administration to take that off your hands as well. So once again, really appreciate your time tonight. Hopefully, or tonight, this morning. Man, I must have stayed up pretty late, huh? I'm glad you guys were here. Hopefully you got something of value that you can take back and help grow your business. We're really excited to talk to you. I encourage you to drop by. And one more time, let's give a round of applause for the folks that contributed their time to help educate us. All right, thank you very much, guys.